What happens at Grandma's stays at Grandma's is a model for you and your grandkids. If it's fun, it's fair game. But lately, hip pain has you grimacing more than laughing. And that's the moment you realize life's too short to put off treatment any longer.
The Joint and Spine Center is Cincinnati's leading destination for orthopedic care, with hundreds of joint replacements each year. So when a moment has the power to change the rest of your life, go to the one place with the power to change it for the better. The Christ Hospital Health Network. This changes everything.
The Pound This podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This podcast, episode 663, the daily weigh-in. How important is BMI?
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started. What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
What's up? Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, and this is the Daily Weigh-In. This is where I take your questions, mostly from my Instagram page. You can always find me at You Can Pound This, slide in my DMs, or you can always email me, amanda@amandavалентиnebites.com, and ask your questions. So I'm going to get to today's question here in a second, but I do want to say that, well, first, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. That is so amazing, and I appreciate you so much. And I would also greatly appreciate if you get any good information from any episode of this podcast, if you could please share it, social media, friends, family, coworkers, whatever. Sharing Pound This to anyone would be absolutely amazing for me. Or if there's particular guests or information you found useful, please share. And that's it. Thank you. On to the question, which is, how important is BMI? Which I do want to preface my answer by saying I am not a doctor. I am not a family physician. This is my opinion. So my opinion coming from someone who was obese most of my life, who's lost over 100 pounds and maintained mostly for the past 10 years. And now I'm a certified nutritionist, certified personal trainer. That's where my answer is coming from. Not a doctor. So here we go. I think BMI is kind of BS. Ooh, see what I did there with all the letters? I mean, obviously BMI gives you, it's taking your height and your weight and telling you what, quote unquote, what a healthy weight is. And I think it's not including so many other factors, including muscle mass. So, there's so many people that are fit people that you would look at and be like, dang, they work out. And their BMI is in an obese range or in an overweight range because they have muscle mass. And so would you describe those people as unhealthy if they have a healthy diet, they have a healthy exercise plan, they're getting great sleep and they're hydrated and all of those things? And you're going to say that, oh, they're not healthy. They are overweight or obese. That's where BMI is kind of crap. And it's an easy way, it's an easy method to just kind of gauge what level I guess your body's at. But I think that if, and speaking as someone who has lots of experience with this, if you are obese or overweight, you kind of know it. I'm not sure if you need BMI to tell you, maybe to like what degree it is. You might feel you're healthier than you think, and you kind of get this BMI number. And there are things such as like skinny fat too, by the way, of where you can be thin. And I guess your BMI could say that you're in a normal, healthy range, but you also just eat like a trash can, and you might drink your face off, and you might smoke cigarettes all day and get no sleep and be stressed out all the time. You're not healthy inside. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just like, you're not working out, you're not healthy. So BMI is trash there too. So what I would go by is, one, how you feel. How you feel is very important, mentally and physically. If you're feeling mentally and physically awesome, that's awesome to me. Again, I'm not your doctor. I don't know what other things you got going on, but I think that you want to feel good in all ways. So that's a huge, marker that you want to have. Also, measurements. Measurements are huge. If you want to do fat like calipers or something, that is way more accurate than like a BMI, I guess, or give you more information if you really want to know what your body fat percentage is. And some things like there's like the InBody machine or certain scales will tell you that. But again, everything with a grain of salt, nothing is, unless you're like in one of those crazy like float tank things that measures your weight. And if you're like at a university or something, then everything is going to be like in a range, right? It's not going to be super, super specific. But if you're going to use calipers, that's probably going to be at least a better gauge or more specific to what your body fat percentage is than what your scale might tell you. You know what I mean? And you can get some cheap calipers on Amazon. I just have a plastic set of them. And that I think will give you more information than a BMI. Same thing with taking your measurements. You just, especially if you're losing weight, you want to take your measurements and keep track of those and make sure everything's moving in the direction you like. Again, if you're doing some heavy strength training in here too, you're gaining muscle mass. So that scale might not be moving down, which means the BMI is going to stay the same, even though you're losing body fat because you are exercising, you're eating correctly, you're getting good sleep, you're managing stress, you're staying hydrated, all of those things. And that scale or the BMI is not going to reflect that. So that's where you go to the doctor's office. They could be like, you are, morbidly obese. Again, there's a difference between morbidly obese and overweight. And I feel like most of us could get a good gauge of understanding our own bodies and knowing what range we think that we might fit into. The one that gets tricky is where they say quote unquote healthy versus overweight, because again, it takes like nothing to be considered overweight. And you're like, dang, really? Again, if you are moving around great, your body feels great, you feel great, are you going to let the BMI thing tell you that you're wrong? Like, isn't the goal to just feel good and be able to move your body in the ways that you would like to? I mean, so that's my feeling on that. I don't really know what a doctor would tell you. I mean, in my experience, doctors I've talked to also pretty much agree with that. So yeah, I wouldn't get hung up on that number. Or if you're on a weight loss journey and you're just kind of like, I've been working so hard and I'm still technically overweight. Again, like, don't let that drag any sort of progress down, or really sit there and think of like, my clothes fit great. That's, I feel like, a good marker too. Again, as long as your heart's healthy, your body's healthy, and you're feeling good, then, the BMI thing. I mean, I don't know how many times I can repeat this. So that is my feeling on that. Go by these other things also. And I've said this a million times on this podcast too, of just also take pictures. I mean, the measurement thing is super important, and the feeling thing, all that stuff. But you're really going to, oh my God, my cats are fighting. Oh my God. That's what I get for leaving the door open. I'm recording at home today, obviously. They're about to fight again. They're just so angry about BMI. But yes, progress pictures, especially if you're losing weight, or again, if you are trying to gain muscle and you're trying to, sculpt your body in certain ways, you're not always going to notice those kinds of changes right away. Of taking progress photos, whether you want to do that once a week, once a month, then that's where the scale may not move, but you can see in the pictures. You're like, oh, yeah, I can see a difference, because it's probably going to be a minute until you really notice it. And it's always like a matter of time till other people notice. And maybe people might notice and they don't want to say anything, because it's real easy to say something that could hurt your feelings. Because even though the compliment might be like, oh my God, are you losing weight? You're looking great. Then you could also interpret that as like, well, what did you think? I was super fat before? Was I ugly before? You know what I mean? Like there's... So I feel like it's kind of the whole thing of like, when are you due? I'm not pregnant. That people may not give you that kind of response, even if you're hoping for it, because nobody's out to hurt feelings, depending on the people in your life, I guess. So again, progress photos are huge. And the only reason I'm keeping on progress photos now is because I am working with my health coach, Sarah, and I take photos once a week, which I'm glad that I have now because it's extremely helpful. And I personally have a hard time forcing myself to take those pictures unless I have somebody accountable for them, right? Like, I don't really feel like getting down to my bra and underwear and taking a picture. every single week, I don't really feel like doing that right now. But when you have somebody that's like, yo, where's your pictures at? You're going to do it. So I also recommend, if you're like me and that helps you, then maybe find a kind of accountability partner, a coach, etc. Yeah, the picture thing, man, God, I wish I had more before pictures that I didn't delete and erase off the face of the earth. It's just me and pictures. We have an interesting relationship. But I feel good in pictures right now, which again is important. I don't even care what my BMI is, because I see a picture of myself right now and I'm like, all right, girl, you're looking good. That's more important to me than what the BMI says. So that's what I have to say about that. If you have any other questions, or if you have a guest you would like to hear, etc., please let me know. Email me, Amanda@AmandaValentineBites.com. Again, appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
AmandaValentineBites.com.